Yes, people. Welcome back to MZTV, the first live transfer show of the window, people. And we've got some special guests in the building. First of all, Sheroy. People might have seen him on AFTV. You know, Arteta lookalike brought him on so we could grill him and up him at the end of the season. And we also got Broads TV, people. Plays for AFTV football team. You might know him. If you don't, go and check him out as well, people. But we're here today to discuss the transfer window. The window's now officially open, people, and we haven't signed anybody. We've not signed nobody just yet. We want to get your thoughts on it, Sheroy, first of all. What do you make of the start of the window? Do you expect us to have pre-contract agreements in place like Tottenham and Villa, or are you still going to give them a little bit of time?
No, look, because of January, I expected us to have our house in order early. That was all of the noise that was coming out was, look, we tried to move a few targets up from the summer to January and we couldn't quite do it. Yeah. So I expected things to be wrapped up quite early in the summer. And it's annoying seeing the team that picked us to fourth being either bringing in players or being linked to players in positions that we need to address well ahead of us, right? And I mean, I'm on Twitter quite a bit and everything I see about Arsenal is Arsenal make inquiry with or Arsenal in advanced talks with, but it's just like, well, where is bid made? Where is bid accepted? You know, when is this happening? I know that people are saying the window has just opened, but we have a lot of business to do and we need to get it done quickly. The other thing I'm not happy about, bro, is there are a lot of outgoings too that we need to sort out, man. We get happy when we send these players out on loan and get them off the wage bill, but the reality is they come back. Yeah, and some of them are players that we shouldn't have trouble getting rid of. Like Bernd Leno is a very good keeper. If we're going to shift him, why do we need to shift him at cut price? You know, I mean, I don't understand this. Other clubs coming up to us saying, "Oh, we kind of want Hector Bellerin, but could you just cancel his contract, please?" You know, when does that happen?
Listen, when he's walking around in crop tops, yeah, cancel that, cancel it, send him on his way. Because I don't know what that picture was like. Now, I hear what you're saying, bro. You got to get the business done early, man. I hear that, but we will touch on it a little bit further on in the stream in depth. But Broads, give us your quick opinions on it, and then we'll move on.
Bro, it's probably going to be the most quickest opinion you ever hear, man. Like, it's the same old with Arsenal, isn't it? Taking a whole summer window to sign one notable player. I mean, is Arsenal an attractive prospect for a top player? Probably not anymore, isn't it? We should have got Champions League sorted. I think we would be having a very different conversation today if we did.
You know what? Short and brief. And you know what, Broads? It just makes so much sense. At the end of the day, we're used to seeing fuckeries at this club. As much as we brush over it, that's what it is absolute fuckeries. And I just want to see us be a little bit proactive now. I want to see us make a change. They're saying it's a new time, a new era, all of this bullshit. I give the owners something. Last season, they put their hand in the pocket, they spent the most, and they brought players in. And for me, they got to do the same now. They got a match last season and this season in order to have a good start to the Premier League campaign, because we have to push now. We have to win the Europa League, and that's something we will touch on a little bit shortly on in the stream. But first of all, people, I just want to get into the people that are looking to leave Arsenal Football Club. Now, the first person that has actually left is Guendouzi, 11 mil. And for me, I feel like that's a massive mistake. What do you take on that, Sheroy? Do you think it's a mistake? I like a player with a bit of an arsehole, a player with a bit of something about him. And to be fair, we got him for 7 mil, sold him for 11 mil. Doesn't make no sense to me.
And the thing is, when I saw him play, I just thought, you know what, this guy's got a lot about him, man. He's got strength. He can drive up the pitch. He can carry the ball. And he seemed exactly what you say, the kind of midfielder that we'd missed for a while, a guy with a bit of fire about him. But I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, man. But part of me thinks that if there is some sort of personality defect that can lead to total disharmony within the dressing room, then maybe, you know, there is no player that's bigger than a club, certainly not a youth player that hasn't necessarily proven himself to the way that certain great experienced players might. But all I know about what happened with him really is what happened at that Brighton game. And after that, you know, we didn't really see him again. It's a common criticism of the manager, really. Like, why can't he patch things up with players once things go sour? And Guendouzi may well be one of those that we look back on and we rue, but we'll all forget about Guendouzi very quickly if we replace him with someone who's quality, who then just starts banging it. You know, then we won't sit here and talk about Guendouzi if we get it right. But because we haven't brought anyone in that position, we're all quietly concerned now.
Yeah. Broads.
Listen, when Emery brought Guendouzi in, he was one of my favorite players, to be fair. You know, he's not the finished article by any means, but he's still young. I could see a lot of potential with him, and it's no surprise to me that he's been, you know, part of the France squad, you know, since making a move to Marseille. You know, for me, especially with Arsenal, and look, we all grew up. Look, you both got Henry in your, you know, in your backgrounds and all of that. So we know the standard that we want, isn't it? Yeah. And these were players that had heart. Even if you weren't a player that was starting for Arsenal, you had heart. And for me, Guendouzi, definitely, especially when we have other professionals in the game criticizing us for having lack of cojones or whatever, you know, Guendouzi definitely had that, you know, from a young man coming through. You know, that he's ready to put anybody to the test, isn't it? And I'm so vexed that he's gone, to be fair. I can't lie to you.
No, most definitely, bro. And you know what the thing is as well, what pisses me off and why I doubt Arteta a lot, because a top manager should be able to take the reins off a player, off a young player like that, put their arm around the shoulder and say, you know what, yeah, I like this, I like that about you. It's all right to do this, it's all right to do that. But just certain things you got to fizzle out, and that's the job of a manager. And if a manager can't do that, then he's not doing his job right. Obviously, we don't know exactly what's gone on behind the scenes, but maybe they should open up and tell us bits and bobs so we've got a clearer understanding. Because for me, that is just stupid business. We brought a player in of massive promise, massive talent as well. It's not like, oh, it was just promise. He was actually playing in the Premier League. He was actually doing bits. And at some stages, he was our best midfielders. And he was young. Now, we've sold him for 11 mil. That's, for me, I think that's an absolute joke. And until Arsenal can fizzle that out of their game, we're not going to have no joy. Because like I said, we've seen Villa, we've seen Tottenham, especially Tottenham. That's our biggest rival right about now, especially where we're sitting in the table going into next season as well. And they're already being proactive. They've got a better manager than us. They're making signings. What are we going to do? Are we going to be waiting to the last day, transfer deadline day, refreshing the shit out of our phone? Do you know what I mean? Because that's all it always ends up being. I just want to see some change. You get me, people? I just want to ask you as well, Sheroy, yeah? Granit Xhaka, what's your stance on him? Because they're saying there's some interest with Leverkusen and Roma. Would you get rid of him? Because I would.
Have you seen the reported prices, though?
Yeah, it's low fees, isn't it?
Look, we can't keep getting mugged off in the transfer market. I've never really had a problem with getting rid of Granit Xhaka if we bring in a feasible upgrade, right? But if we get rid of him and we don't really replace him with anyone quality, do we have Mohamed El Neni starting in that position, or do we have Sambi Lokonga starting in that position? We all know that's not good enough, right? So out of the midfielders that we have, in my opinion, Granit Xhaka should have been starting the amount that he was, because there wasn't anyone else who was as good as him in that position.
Best at what we had.
Exactly. If we're gonna get rid of him, we not only need to bring in an adequate replacement, but we need to get value for him, because we get overcharged by a lot of clubs because they know we need players, right? We're looking at in excess of 50 million for Gabriel Jesus, but he's in the last year of his contract, and he's not exactly had 25, 30 goal seasons in the league, right? That's a lot of money to be paying for someone with 1 year left.
Yeah.
And people are holding us to ransom because they know that we need players in these positions. Well, we need to start doing the same. If you really want Granit Xhaka, then come give us a decent amount of money for him. Let's not forget he's an international captain. You know, he's not a player that is easily obtainable if you're looking at the world stage. So the reality is, if we get good value for him and we bring someone else in, I wouldn't mind getting rid of him, Premsy, no.
Yeah. Broads?
Yeah, I think Xhaka is a man who comes under a lot of scrutiny, a lot of criticism. And look, whilst I don't believe he is of that Arsenal quality, I might be, you know, guilty of maybe looking too much into the past, right? At the moment, what is the Arsenal quality? You know, maybe we'll get into that as the show goes on, but what actually is Arsenal quality? You know, maybe we feel like the game owes us something, but the game owes us nothing. And, you know, moving forward from that point that I just made there, I feel like probably, like Sheroy said, Xhaka is probably one of our best midfielders available right now, if not the best. Partey can't stay fit at all. you know, Lokonga's just not ready, unfortunately. Guendouzi is being sent out. Torreira's been sent out. I think, you know, the latter two, if they had been able to remain at Arsenal, they would be our better midfielders and we wouldn't have to play Xhaka. But at the moment, I'd say Xhaka, whilst he lacks a lot of professionalism and, you know, he's got more yellow and red cards than he has goals, you know, I think Arteta will keep him. He'll probably end up having a testimonial at Arsenal. Could you imagine? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I mean, I can't argue with it too much because right now we don't have anybody to play over him. Like Sheroy said, are you going to put El Neni over him? No. So, you know, it's just, look, Xhaka doesn't pick himself. You know, he's obviously, we all know, and we all probably grew up wanting to be footballers, yeah? Like, you're not going to say to a manager, listen, I shouldn't play in it. You're going to play. You're going to collect your money and all of that. But at the end of the day, like, this just boils down to poor dealings in the transfer window, you know, poor strategy going forward as a club. If we think back to when the Cronkies came in, there must have been no 10-year plan when it comes to football, did it? You know, there must have been no 5-year plan when it comes to football. And I don't think there is one going forward. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I don't want to keep being the negative guy or whatever, but I feel like, you know, Xhaka, if we can recoup some money for him, then great. But with the prices that he's being linked to right now, I don't think you might as well just keep him, man. Give him his testimonial, let him retire at the club, man.
This really is the window.
I give him away, mate. Do you know what I mean? For a caller, that I'm telling you, boys, price is low on that. Just get rid of him. I know it sounds mad, but we've made mistake with these players. We gotta just get rid of him and take the knock now, because until we can get these out the door, we're not going to get substantial replacements in or players of caliber, because Arteta's going to think, oh, if Xhaka stays, I'm going to get the dressing room's going to get unsettled. No. I just think we need to get rid of him. And I know it sounds a little bit harsh. He is the best midfielder in the club right now, but that just shows the levels we're at. And the one thing I wanted to touch on and move on to, people, is what should we be prioritizing in this window? And for me, it's experience. I feel like we have to maximize the opportunity of this window, especially to buy experience right from the get-go. What do you think, Sheroy? Do you agree with that?
Arteta came out and said it himself. He said, look, we've got the promising youth in the team already. But when I'm looking at some of the players that we're linked with, I mean, I understand that Jesus is relatively experienced in terms of what he's done for Man City, but from memory, he's 25. And he's not... He's been around for a while, but he's not that level of elite experience that I think we need to get these youngsters to press on. And people talk a lot about Serge Gnabry. Now, I haven't seen one concrete reason to believe that we're even trying to get him. There's been a lot of talk about, oh, bring him in, and Arsenal fans on Twitter really want him. I really want him too. He would be the caliber of player that we need to prioritize. And he's got that experience, and he's at the right age, and he is world level, and he would improve all of the players going forward. But can you point towards one tangible link where we're actually linked with him? I think we definitely need to prioritize experience, because there aren't any positions on this pitch where I don't think we have promising youth. If I look at centre back, we've got promising youth. I mean, even though they're starting, Gabriel, White, and Saliba, they're quite young. Kieran Tierney's not very old. You know, Tomiyasu's not very old. You look in the midfield, Lokonga's not very old. You look up front, Martinelli's young, Saka's young, Nketiah's young. We've got youth there. We now need to bring in that killer level experienced player, and we need, I think, honestly, at least one in the midfield, at least one up front. I'd probably say 2 up front and 2 in the midfield in an ideal world. But I'm just not seeing it happening. And this really, for me, this really is the window, because the Super League protests, I think, led to the last window that we all loved. I think that was honestly to get fans off their back, because there were protests outside. I wanted to see them follow it up in January, and they didn't. They said, look, we didn't want to bring in the wrong caliber of player. They know we missed out on top 4 because of it. If they don't rectify and remedy that error now in the summer, I think myself and a lot of fans, I think that is the point where we're actually just going to lose patience and hope with this ownership, because we've given them so much time.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Time.
No, definitely. I actually agree with all of that, Sheroy. And you know what? Yeah, I just feel that if we don't get it right this window, it's going to knock us back another 2-3 years. And it's just about putting the money out. I've looked at a few players. I personally believe we need 5 players. I feel like 5 players. and that's going to cost anywhere between 170 to 180 mil. And I am excited about some of the names that are linked to Arsenal Football Club, which is something good, because over the last couple of years, we've not been linked to players like Tielemans or maybe even a Neves, or like, we hear the name, but they're not strong enough links. Now it sounds like there's strong links coming out. Fabrizio Romano talking about it. There's some substance to certain players. And I think you're right. I think 2 strikers is probably what we're definitely going to need. Eddie Nketiah, I'm hearing, is going to sign a 100k contract for 5 years. What the fuck is that about? Now, big man thing, that's an absolute joke, Sheroy. You get me? Like, how are we giving this guy 100 bags a week, yeah, when he's done absolute fuck all for the club? And I'm not saying that to disrespect him. It's just straight up facts. Because the moment you give him that kind of money, people are going to start asking for the world and its son. You think Tielemans is going to come in, or Neves is going to come in on 100 bags, same as Eddie Nketiah? They're going to say, good one, mate. Do you know what I mean? Broads, what do you think about that?
No, completely agree with the both of you, to be fair. We spoke about experience, and I feel like, the lack of it is costing us big time. On the other hand, I feel like the youngsters that we do have, they're really good. Even I will include Nketiah in that, because listen, he's had a lot of criticism, but he's cracked on. Do you know what I mean? He's cracked on. He got his run of games in the end. He's still not there, but who do you look up to in this Arsenal squad? They got rid of Aubameyang. Lacazette is going. Xhaka seems to still display a lot of immaturity. Even with that statement that he come out with in the end, at the end of the season, about, don't declare yourself fit, or whatever rubbish he was talking. Yeah. So I feel like, look, every year, I don't know about you guys, but every year as an Arsenal fan, we'll say, yeah, we'll have a shopping list, isn't it? And it never really quite becomes fulfilled. So I don't know. Should we go with mass signings, that being like 4 or 5 signings, or should we go with maybe 1 or 2 big ones to help make the club look a lot more attractive? Because you always know that when you have good players come into a squad, other good players are going to want to come in as well. As it stands at the moment, we can't even beat Newcastle to certain signings. As it stands right now, it looks like we can't beat Spurs to certain signings. So, which that is a big change from a few years ago as well. So I feel like the brand itself of Arsenal Football Club is actually going lower and lower and lower. We haven't really made a good or a serious signing since Alexis Sanchez, in my opinion. Partey would have been that, but he's not really kicked on so far.
No, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but I do feel like we do need them 4 or 5. Well, for me, I'd say 5, 6 really signings of quality as well, bro. Like, it's needed, and it's needed now, because we're going to be going into the Europa League now. I don't just want us to participate in the Europa League. We need to be winning that, because there's no point us being in the Champions League if we can't win the Europa League. That makes no sense. Like, we got to win one of these trophies. And for me, that should be our main target this season, to win that Europa League, because it will send out a message. You'll get to play in another competition against the Champions League winners. It's brand exposure. And that should be our aim, because I just can't see how Arsenal Football Club now just sign even 1, 2 players of substance just to get the club's name bigger, make them more money, is not doing us any good. Maybe, 1, 2 players and a few others around it, so it could bring some squad depth, because being in all competitions next season, believe we're gonna struggle. Like, we struggled having 1 game a week this season, boys. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be a bit of a mad one. I just wanted to say, William Saliba coming back, Sheroy, it's a massive plus in my eyes. I feel like he's a promising young talent. We've got to get him wrapped up on a contract early. Talk to me. Give us your thoughts on him.
Bro, I honestly never thought he was going to leave. I always thought he was going to come back. Whether he ends up running out his contract and going for free or whatever remains to be seen, right? That depends on how well he settles into the team, how much Arteta plays him, and how much he believes in the direction that Arsenal are taking. But if you're looking at Saliba, I think he's going to be playing in the same position as Ben White. Now, what you want in every position is two top quality players to be competing for positions and elevating people. So if I'm looking at Saliba and White, I'm happy in that position. But I can't point to many other positions on the pitch where I think we have that kind of quality. A real starter and someone who's also a viable starter who's going to push someone, right? If I'm looking in central midfield, currently I'm looking at Partey and Xhaka. Who's pushing either of those in terms of a place in the starting 11 if they're both fit? Absolutely no one as it stands.
El Nene.
Probably not pushing them for a starting position though. I don't think I can't see Partey or Xhaka getting.
But you got to see the big games that we've had as well, Sheroy, like the ones that we've actually won. It's been El Nene that started, and he's made a difference in them games. So
that's why I
I
didn't have a problem with the 1 year extension work he signed. I had no problem with that. But if you look, I mean, again, if I'm looking at right back, Tomiyasu starts, and that's a foregone conclusion. Cedric's not really going to elevate him. Tierney starts, that's a foregone conclusion. Nuno's not really going to elevate him. On the left-hand side, maybe Martinelli or Smith Rowe, but for me, Martinelli's the natural left-sided player. Smith Rowe isn't naturally there to play in that position. We're trying to make him play in that position. We've only got one striker, so there's no one to elevate anyone because it looks like, Eddie Nketiah is the only striker there. Balogun's probably going out on loan. Right-hand side, is Pepe going to elevate Saka? Has Saka ever been worried about his place in the starting 11? No. So I basically just run through the whole team. So Saliba coming back is great news, to go back to your question. But we need that sort of competition for places in every position. And that's how you get to that elite squad level. You see, that's the issue I have here. And that's why I think, going back to do we need 2 quality players or 4 or 5? Look, we've got Europa League, we've got a Winter World Cup, and we were already found out because we didn't have enough squad depth. I don't think we have any option other than to bring in 4 or 5 players. But they also do need to be quality, and that's why this for me is the window to look out for Arsenal Football Club. Completely agree with Bremsy. If we don't get this one right, this could be a very, very, very dark entering.
We got slapped up first 3 games this season. You know what I mean? It's going to be a long season next season with everyone strengthening around us as well. But Broads being linked to Rafinha, and he's a player that I love. And if we can sign him, I'm telling you now, I feel like that will elevate us to a different attacking level in a sense. People might not rate him as highly as I do, but I do watch a lot of him and I think he's absolutely unbelievable. What's your take on that? Do you reckon it's reasonable to get him?
Yeah, I think it's reasonable to get him. At the end of the day, I truly believe that players come into Arsenal and it's 50-50 from there. You either sink or you swim. We took in Willian. Remember when we got Willian? And Willian was meant to be, like somebody of certain standard. He came in and he just collected a paycheck. In the end, he did the honorable thing and just left, isn't it? Amicably. Yeah. But at the same time, it does indicate to me that, especially where you were both saying that there's no real competition for places. Saka is a young, very talented, but very young player, and his place is pretty much cemented. You've got Pepe, who's coming from a very good team in France and doesn't really get a shot. I think Rafinha coming in does add a lot more competition to the mix. He's definitely shone in a Leeds team that was very underwhelming. A Leeds team that maybe should have went down. They didn't, but okay, cool. So I think him coming in, he'll have to be coached in the correct way. And I feel like there's such a argument between coaching, player quality, structure, all in Arsenal. I think they all play their part within this team, but getting Rafinha in is a step in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. Sheroy, what do you think of Rafinha? Get a Rafinha and a Jesus.
Take Rafinha in a heartbeat, man.
He's a bad man, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah, but I mean, the reality is, look, as you say, he was playing in a struggling Leeds side, and he was making serious fullbacks and centre backs on that side look distinctly average, and he's been doing it for a long time. And one of the reasons I'm kind of optimistic about that is Edu, because it seems like all the players that we're feasibly linked with are Brazilian. He's got this sort of Brazilian link, right? So we're looking at people like Gabriel Jesus, and we're looking at Rafinha, and we got in, Gabriel, 2 seasons
looking at Bruno Guimaraes as well.
Exactly. It seems like he's only really got that Brazilian link, but we do need to kind of widen our net a bit. We can't only bring in Brazilian players because there are a lot of other players out there. But yeah, I take him in a heartbeat, and it's exactly what Broad says. Saka has a lot of weight on his shoulders. That's a double-edged sword. It's a good thing and a bad thing. But no player at that age, at a club the size and caliber of what Arsenal Football Club ought to be, should have their position nailed on like that. I'm not saying that I don't want him to start week in, week out. I absolutely adore the guy. And he was for me our player of the season last season. But I think even he would like to not have to play every single league game and sort of carry the weight of the world on his shoulders at that age, right? I think you do need someone to help him out in that position. And Rafinha would be a great shout.
And you know what? Yeah, it makes sense, and it is right, because it is a lot of pressure on him. He is young, and he doesn't always have the greatest game, Saka. As much as we love him, the truth is he doesn't always have the greatest games. Them periods of difficulty, you could just put him on the bench, let Rafinha come out, have a run out, and it's something different. It gives him that extra motivation, just like Broad saying, the competition for places, just like you were saying a little bit earlier on, we need to up that level of competition. And I think with Saka, because he's at such a level, it's going to take somebody like a Rafinha to come in and give him that competition, because you can't really, there's not many players, I don't think, in the league that are going to really be able to be on Saka's level or give him that competition or drive, where Rafinha's got that about him. Do you know what I mean? The guy got on his knees and that and walked the whole pitch. Like, he's got something about him. I'm telling you, I like little stuff, bits and bobs like that. It just shows how humble he is and people's character. And the one thing that I am liking to see is, if we did get a Rafinha and a Jesus, that's vital Premier League experience. I think that's one thing that Arsenal have lacked over a period of time, signing players from the Premier League that are not just, Ben White that might come in and do a job and become good, but actually proven quality. I can't really remember the last time we've signed proven quality from the Premier League. Obviously, I'm not talking about like Willian and people at the end of their careers. Somebody that's at the peak of their career coming in and making that difference. And when you deep the situation at Liverpool, that's how they kind of got to where they did, built a foundation of getting young players, experienced players from the Premier League, and building a team like that. And I think we could take a leaf out their book. And I think being linked with these players are a little bit exciting. But I just wanted to go on to 5 players that I would sign, boys. Tell me, is this unrealistic? And if it's unrealistic, then I'll just have to deal with it, because this is what I'm expecting. You know what I mean? So first of all, we signed Gabriel Jesus, yeah? So he could play either out on the wing or play up front. Arteta likes the versatility. And I would personally give our Martinelli more of a chance up front as well. I'd swap them two, not every game, but here and there, to see who we could get the best out of up front, because I think Martinelli's a killer. And if we play him up front, I think he can develop his game brilliantly. Jesus?
You can do that in game. Like, you talk about Liverpool, you talk about Mane, Salah, whoever they want to play, Jota, Firmino. I can't think of 90 minutes where they're constantly playing on the same flank. They're always interchanging.
Sorry, wait for the next signings to come in, and then one of them might be on bench. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fine. I mean, I take him, and I think it is realistic. If we don't get him now after these links, it's embarrassing, in my opinion, because we've clearly put all our eggs in this Jesus basket, and now we need to get that over the line.
Yeah, and that's, to be honest, I think I can see that getting over the line of 45 mil. As much as reports say 50 or whatnot, 45 mil on the table to take it off a year left on his contract. Second player, Rafinha, sign him as well all day long. That's saying about 45, 50 mil. Reasonable to do. Get him in. And then in midfield, I'd sign one of either Tielemans or Neves. Which one would you go for? Because I'm quite split between them both. I think they're both brilliant. I feel like Tielemans needs a new challenge. Maybe that's why we haven't seen the best of him at Leicester this season. But Neves, for me, there's something in him that I just really like as a player. So talk to me, boys.
I see Tielemans, Neves and Tielemans, in my opinion, are both on a similar level. Yeah. But Tielemans is like, he can pop up with a goal in a big game, or when you need it. Like, I remember him scoring in the FA Cup final and things like this. I think he's somebody that does need to be kept on his toes, though. Do you know what I mean? Where we've seen at Leicester this year, he's kind of struggled with that. Neves, on the other hand, seems to be a bit more consistent in that sense. Maybe he's got a lot more self-motivation. But so I don't want to kind of sit on the fence here, but I would probably just edge towards Tielemans.
Right, okay. Sheroy?
Let me be perfectly clear. I'd take either of them in a heartbeat, given what we have in midfield. But I'd go the other way. I'd edge towards Neves, if I'm being honest.
Okay.
There's just a little bit about Tielemans that concerns me, and I don't know whether it's attitude or whether it is just because I'm only remembering the most recent season. But Neves for me just seems to play to the same level, regardless of what club, whether it's international. He puts on the shirt, he does the same job match after match, and I think that level of consistency is what Arsenal needs right now in that position. And don't forget, we were looking at Tielemans in a side that, I mean, I'm not saying they're a world-beating side, Leicester, but they did very well. You know, they won an FA Cup. He was playing with some very, very good players around him. You know, people like Maddison, people like Vardy, people like Iheanacho, people like Patson Daka, whoever it might be. But we've seen Neves in that Wolves team. They're pretty much a distinct mid-table team, and Neves still stands out. And also sometimes, man, you just need to look at the other caliber of club that's linked with a player to kind of get an idea of how good they are. I think really the only credible noises about Tielemans have come from us, but when it comes to Neves, I've heard about a lot of people wanting him. Maybe it's taking work, maybe it's not, but I think that goes to the heart of how good a player is sometimes. So I'd probably go for Neves, but if we got either, man, I'd be more than happy, because it isn't. I saw a comment just now about they're both an upgrade on Xhaka or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think that's bang on.
That's bang on, and Xhaka's just getting it left, right, and centre. But you know what, Tielemans, it'll be a cheaper option by the looks of it, 25 mil. Neves might be a little bit more expensive for 10 mil or whatnot. But that's who I'll go for. One of them. I'll bring in also Basuma.
Correct. Yeah.
Along with them. And you could probably get him for 35, 40 mil. Obviously, he's got a little bit of a case going on. Hopefully that clears up or whatnot. But I'd bring in a Basuma. And then I'd sign Aaron Hickey. I know we've been linked to him. And I feel like there'll be a lot of experience ejected into that team with them players. And I think we'll have room for a player of development, because Kieran Tierney is our first choice player. He's experienced. And having that little Scottish connection between them both, he'll look up to him. And what I have seen of him and what I have read about him, he seems like a promising talent. I've had quite a few people messaging me telling me, oh, he's a good player. He's been out in Serie A for 2 years and played in Bologna. I believe he was the youngest ever player to play inside the Scottish Cup final. So he's got some substance about him. You get me, people? So what? They're the last 2 people that are on the list. So that's 5 players, yeah? If we sign Tielemans, everybody and Tielemans, that's 170 mil. If we sign everybody and Neves, that's 180 mil. So for me, that would sort out the problems at our club.
Are you happy with right back right now?
Well, I'm not really happy, but I can't be too greedy, because I know what these guys are on. And I think Cedric can do a job, because I don't think Tomiyasu will get injured next season as much as he has this season. I think it was just getting used to the pace of the Premier League. I think that was a problem. I think getting a full pre-season under his belt, it might help with that. Obviously,
got Europa League 2 now, though.
Yeah, don't worry. If I could get rid of Cedric, I would, bro. But I'm just trying to be realistic. You get me? He's Arteta's man in it. He signed him, so I could just see him sticking with him, because in his head, that's the experience. Bare Premier League game time under his belt, and he's just a yes man. So I can't see them getting rid of him. I would love Jed Spence. But...
Well, it looks like he's going to the boys up the road, bro, which is another infuriating report to read. I rate the guy a lot. Martinelli, when he played against him, said he was the toughest fullback that he played against in the season. You know, now you're looking at things like that. Why would you not be targeting someone in that position? It's incredibly frustrating. But as you say, missing out on top 4 is going to come back and bite us in the arse, man.
Yeah, I just want to answer this question here, boys, from Alvin. Would you rather Richarlison or Jesus? Because I've seen Richarlison being linked to Tottenham. And to be honest, I'm not happy with them links, because I think he's a top player with a lot of potential. Who would you go for?
I would say probably... I've been a big fan of Richarlison this season, despite Everton's position in the league table. I think he brings a lot of grit. He looks like a man with a point to prove. Jesus, like, it's funny because, you know, Jesus won the Premier League and Richarlison nearly got relegated from it. But I feel like Jesus, it could go either way. There's not too much competition in that Brazil squad, so I don't think it's going to affect him as much as Richarlison. Although they both play for Brazil, I think Jesus is in the stronger position. I feel like Richarlison, for me, though, there's something like I like players with grit. You know, we spoke about Guendouzi at the beginning of the stream. I like players with that grit, you know, that tenacity, that work rate, all of those things. And I think we need that in Arsenal. Sometimes it's motivating, isn't it? Like, you know, whatever level of football you've played at, you know, when you see your teammate really putting in a shift, it is bound to motivate you, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? I think he'll be a fan favorite if he does come in, to be fair.
Yeah. I really like Richarlison, to be honest with you. Sheroy, what do you make of Richarlison?
I love him, man. I mean, I know that a lot of people have said that he hasn't quite hit the heights that were expected of him, but don't forget, he's not really been playing at the level of club that I think someone of that caliber should be playing at. And the thing with Richarlison is, when I look at him, he's just got a bit of everything. He can score headed goals, he can get in behind, he can ping off a shot at long range. But the main thing for him is he's tenacious. He's going to piss off defenders. He's got that level of nastiness that we haven't had up front in a while. I mean, I saw pictures online the other day of him rucking with Vinicius at international training. I mean, he's just that kind of player. Now, if you look at Gabriel Jesus, I understand the logic. He's played under Pep Guardiola. It's clear that Arteta wants to emulate that to some extent. So you may not need to teach the guy how to play within that sort of system. And he's perhaps, you know, he wants that number 9 position and he wants to be the main guy. But there is just an element of unpredictability about Richarlison. And I think if you gave them both 38 games in a Premier League season, I think Richarlison will score more goals than Jesus ultimately. And that for me is what it comes down to, because that's what we need in this team right now. You know, it's goals.
I think what a lot of people need to do as well is look at Richarlison's situation. Being at Everton, he's played under so many managers that have asked of different things of him. He's had to play second fiddle to Calvert-Lewin in his favoured position, really. So it's like, to still do what he's doing, still dig him out of the mud in certain situations, it takes a player of character to do that. And I feel like they're the players that we need at Arsenal Football Club. Players with balls, players with mentality, players that want the ball. If you watch Richarlison, he's a player that does never shy away from the ball. He wants it all the time. You get me? And this is what we need to develop at Arsenal, I think, boys. But is there anybody that you have in mind, Broads or Sheroy, anybody at all that I've not touched on that you would think would be a good fit? That's reasonable to get as well, not fucking sign Cristiano Ronaldo and all that.
What are you both saying about this Scamacca link? Because I don't know that much about him, but he does look like a good plan B option, man. He looks like he's got height. He looks like he can give us something in those games where, you know, the football isn't quite working and you just need to launch it up and try and get a dirty goal, you know, try and get a goal that you don't necessarily, it doesn't look pretty. I think we do need that type of striker in our team, man, because if we're going with Jesus and Eddie, again, it doesn't really look like there's a plan B striker there. What happens when you've got a low block and you can't get through? Who are we bringing on to switch it up? We came unstuck this year a lot because of that. And I think we do need that type of striker, man. There was talk about Tammy Abraham too last year. That went quiet. I think he again could have been that sort of plan B striker. So I don't know what you both make of that.
Go on, Broads.
I feel like I like to diversify our attacking options in anything that we do. So, you know, there's been, you know, Eddie, he's not the finished article. I think he should be a squad kind of rotation player. I would go with Richarlison. I think you can get Richarlison on the cheap. I think, you know, if Edu does the negotiations properly, he could say to Richarlison, obviously there's the Brazilian link, and also he could say, look, man, like, we're never going to be near the relegation zone, although it looks like it sometimes, but, you know, you're going to be playing European football. You're going to be, you know, a lot more stronger in your position to start in that Brazil squad. Come over to us. I don't think agreeing personal terms would be so difficult. I don't think his market value is going to be so high right now as well. And then you can bring in Scamacca from Italy. You know what I mean? I don't know too much about him, but the amount of crosses that we've put into the box this season, you would want like a big target man in there, you know. And I feel like, as funny as it sounds, I feel like we have dropped off a bit since we've lost Giroud. You know, I think Giroud was somebody that a lot of fans didn't like, but every team that he's been to, he's played a big part, not only with, you know, scoring goals here and there, but it's the hold-up play. You know, without that hold-up play, France don't win the World Cup, in my opinion. You know, Chelsea don't win the trophies they do with him. AC Milan don't win the league this year. You know, so I think it's very, very important to diversify your attacking options and bring in a target man.
Now, you know what, Rods, I agree. You know, I think he is very Giroud-esque. And that's what I was going to say as well myself. It reminds me a bit of a Giroud kind of signing. And I believe personally, we need that. We really do. I don't know much about him. I don't know whether he's that guy or he will be that guy. But we do need somebody that's going to be able to come on and be a plan B as well. Because Eddie Nketiah, for me, I know I keep banging on about it, but I don't know why we're giving him 100 bags a week. Like, that makes no sense. For me, that just makes no sense. You know what I mean? So realistically, we should get rid of Eddie, have a player like Scamacca, and bring in a Jesus, because then it diversifies the options. You can then have Jesus on the left, and you can have Scamacca up front, bring on Martinelli. You've got some diversity to the team. Do you know what I'm saying? But I can't see Arsenal bringing in two people, Sheroy. I really can't. You get me? So I think that we are linked to him. I think that would be worst case scenario. We don't sign Jesus. We don't sign Rafinha. They'll bring in a Scamacca and act like he's fucking the best new striker in the world. Yeah, what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, look at it, that aligns with what Ornstein came out and said. He said, as far as he knows, the plan is Jesus and Eddie Nketiah. And I saw that and I was worried. I was like, well, I mean, where are these goals coming from? If that's the only way we're bolstering that striker position, having lost our ex-Golden Boot-winning striking captain and our second-choice striker, how are we going to kick on from where we are? That was the worry. I agree with the 5 players that you mentioned and those positions, but I do think we need that plan B striker, and that's why I think, honestly, we might need a 200 million window if we're really as ambitious as the owners say they are. And they do say they want to bring the glory days back to Arsenal. And they say they're hurting because we're not in top 4. But they say that Champions League this year was early and the plan was to get it next year. Well, then you have to address these positions. It's that simple. You have to, your actions have to align with the messages you're sending, because there comes a point where even the patient, relatively optimistic fan like me loses patience with you. And that may well be this summer if things don't go the way that we need them to go. I'm very curious to see what happens.
Do you know what, Sheroy, as well? It's one of them. 200 million this day and age is light work, man. They should be able to. Obviously, it's not light work for us, but it's light work for them. These are billionaire people. Do you know what I mean? And he's gone spending big money for the LA Rams, putting all his time, his investment, his energy into that club, while Arsenal's just wiltering away. And it's sad for us fans to see that. At the end of the day, hopefully, he can do what he did in the summer, put an X 50 mil on it, be in a good mood because they won the Super Bowl and all that, and try to nice us up, because maybe that might give him some motivation to try to get to the big events, because now he's actually won something of substance with his own teams. But yeah, people, let's come to the end of the stream now. Big up Sheroy, big up Broads. Appreciate you coming on. Obviously, you're more than welcome anytime. And people, make sure you're hitting the like button. It helps push the video out. And also, make sure you're subscribing if you're new people. And make sure you comment in as well. I will try to reply back to any more comments that you may add further on the video. Broads, Sheroy, peace out. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, bro.